Hey there, and welcome to the Business of Business podcast. Here we are two daughters and their dad, seeking to inspire and educate you to follow your dreams of being in business by teaching you the business of being in business. The good, the bad, the humor are all parts of our unique perspective as an entrepreneurial family. Thanks for joining us. So grab a coffee, turn up the volume. Here we go. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast, The Business of Business. This is Two Daughters and Their Dad. I am Staci Joy Dempsey, your host, and the J is very important because it brings the joy. I have with me here today my dad and my sister. Everybody say hi.
You
Hello.
first.
Anybody say
Hello,
hi?
hello.
So welcome back, guys. So today we want to talk about goal setting for our business. What does goal setting really look like? We've kind of mentioned some vision boards. And so, I kind of wanted to get what your takes are on goal setting. How do you go about it? What's the time frame that we use? What's the time horizon that we use? How do we reevaluate it? So I'll start with you, Jennifer. What does goal setting look like for you in your business in in 3.5 years?
Okay, so we're talking about goals, right? We're not talking about budgeting. We're not talking about necessarily money, right? We're talking about goals. So 13 years ago when I first became a hairstylist, my goal setting looked way different than it does today. And this just recently came up for me in the salon. I used to really be into vision boards. I'm not saying I'm not anymore. I am. But that was like my thing. Like, what are we putting on the vision board for the year? Like, we see it, we want to achieve it. Or we talked about, let's write down goals year one. What do I want in 5 years? All of that is good stuff, I think, in your business and personal, right? But recently, I think what I've been learning or what I've started to believe in a little bit more is more short-term goals, because I've experienced things change, right? Your business changes, your lifestyle changes. So especially starting this podcast and some new things that I have going on at the salon, I'm more interested in, okay, this is the goal. This is the big picture. What's the first step? Let's put a goal against the first step. The goal is, let's just get started, right? Let's just do it. Let's just do something. And once we achieve that, then we set our next goal. So that's been more of what I've been really into lately, how I've been running my business, even in my personal life. I know in the salon, everyone that works at the salon has goals. And for 3.5 years, we've been putting goals, monthly goals. For the month, this is what we should be doing, And after I was thinking about it, I talked to all the girls. We decided to break it down daily. Like, what is our daily goal every day we come in? What's the goal for the day? And I can't tell you yet how it's been working because we just, started doing that. But I know I feel better about it. Like, what's happening today? What can we do today? And then we can focus on tomorrow. So that's where I'm at right now. I think that it's more achievable. It makes more sense for me. Again, when we're talking about long-term goals, I think we were talking about, it's more of a vision. Like, what is our vision in 5 years for our personal life, for our business? But when we're talking about goals that we want to achieve, I want to talk about short-term goals. What's our goal for the week? What's our goal for tomorrow? And I think that just sits a whole lot better. Again, we're talking about people that we work with, employees. Not everyone has vision. Not everybody has long-term goals. They're like, girl, I'm just trying to get through today, tomorrow. Like, what's happening? Especially when, again, we're talking about lifestyle. Like, I work with mostly women in my business. We're talking about people having babies. Like, what I want today might not be what I want in 5 years. We have people getting married. We have lifestyle changes. So I'm feeling much better goal setting on a much more short term instead of long term. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, the other challenge with, right now we're early in 2020, so if you set a goal that is, for like an annual goal, say I want to, increase my business revenue by X amount of dollars. Well, the challenge can be with that type of goal, even though it's important to set, those types of numbers for your business. But if you don't break it down like Jen talked about, it's easy to let time go by, especially early in the year. You might miss, doing something that is important if you're going to hit your annual goal. But because it's January, you don't feel it. And so because you can easily be dangerous. And so if you approach it like Jen talked about, where you really break it down in shorter term and goals, in that daily goal, weekly goal, monthly goal, and really just focus on that, you're going to have a much better chance of meeting, the annual goal. The other thing is how you frame. I think the goal is important. So, you can say, well, I want to increase my business revenue this year over the year before. Well, that's very, general and vague.
Right.
So the better goal would be, I want to increase my business revenue by 15% over the previous year. So now it's much more specific. So being as specific as possible with your goals is really, really important, and then, you have benchmarks and things that you can begin to measure. And that's the key to goals, is setting something that you can measure. So that would be one thing that I would really recommend people to consider.
And then, so what about sharing our goals? Because there's a lot of information out there about, sometimes people are like, I don't want to share my goals because then if I fall short, then it's going to make me feel worse. And some people are saying, I want to share my goals with, an accountability partner, or, so how do you guys go about, what do you guys feel about that? How do you guys go about it?
It's funny that you say that. I was thinking about that the other day, right? Being an entrepreneur, being the boss, right? So in my world, sometimes I feel like I don't have that, right? Because I still do measure myself like I would any other person that works in my salon. I still have goals of what I need to bring into the salon. And sometimes I don't have someone checking me on that. And we just had a win. I had one of my stylists level jump, which is huge in my salon. And I had to really take a look at myself and say, it's been 6 years since I raised my prices. So I've been hitting these goals, and I've been scared to raise my prices. 2020, we raised prices, right? But it's like, well, nobody told me good job. Who's telling me good job, right? Because of course it's important to celebrate our achievements, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you have employees. So I send my girls flowers when they hit their goals. We celebrate them. And I'm thinking, should I send myself some flowers? No, that doesn't match my budget.
Right.
So are you okay with that? Right? Are you okay with that, being in a position? Now, again, I look for motivation in different ways, but I'm okay with saying, I just killed that, right? Like I don't need someone to constantly be telling me good job. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. Now, I did get a text from Dad just recently.
Oh, I was getting ready to say, I'm pulling it up to read it.
Yes.
Because you were hurting my feelings there a little bit ago by
I'm
saying
sorry.
nobody recognized you.
I know. Well, it's like, it's he did. And it comes super random, and it's never like direct to the point. He's always like in a roundabout way. I literally screenshotted it and sent it to Emily and was like, what does this last part mean? But I'm self-conscious. But you're not always going to get that, right? So I think it's super important to celebrate everyone in your business, especially when they hit their goals. Like, it's huge. And I'm always looking for new ways to do that. And you're like, it takes more effort to do it, right? Like, I don't think a lot of bosses understand that, or people in leadership positions. Like, you're expecting people to hit goals, but then you don't celebrate them when they do. And it doesn't always have to be something, right? It's like a high five, bring in a fruit tray, send flowers, but acknowledgement on hitting goals is huge for 99% of the world.
Right. What about you, Jack? I mean, obviously in Dempsey Weiss, you've had a business partner for 30 plus years. So obviously there is a natural accountability to, each other, the partnership, the business. And so what are your thoughts on all of that?
There's no doubt, sharing goals, objectives, and asking someone, to hold you accountable is huge. I just recently read about a study that was done by neuroscientists and they developed what was called the 40% rule. And they said that most people quit at 40% effort. And and I got thinking about, like working out, how it's funny that when I'm working out by myself, I'll be doing weights or reps and then I'll quit. But when I'm working out with someone, it's amazing how they can get 2 or 3 more reps out of me just by being there and encouraging me, or just being there and being my son and I'm wanting to just beat him.
Right.
But either way, that's if I didn't have that person, I would quit probably 2 or 3 reps short of where I should be.
Right.
That's that 40%. And so when you think about that in business, or you think about that in what you're trying to accomplish, in most things, just like working out, if it's 10 reps and I'm quitting at 10, but I should probably have went to 13 or 14. Well, it's in those last 3 or 4, that's where all the growth comes from.
Right.
The first 10 was just preparing me for the 3 or 4 hard ones and that's where your growth comes from. So there is absolutely no doubt that sharing your goals, accountability, even, again, holding yourself to a high standard. I mean, that's one of the traits of an entrepreneur and a successful person is that, you should invite people into that. But, you should also just realize as a leader and an entrepreneur, I've got to hold myself to the high standards that I expect those people around me, to perform at.
Yeah, I think it depends, right? Like, I share my financial goals with you, Dad. You're probably the only person I talk to about financial goals. But goals in the salon, I'm sharing them with the rest of the team. So I think it depends on what you're talking about. I think sharing a goal with a mentor compared to sharing it with like your friends, family, staff.
Right. So there's goals in, someone holding me accountable. And then there's also goals when we're talking about, employees, about for them to have buy-in that here, I've set this goal for us. I'm going to take an active,
Right.
responsibility in that as well. Like, I'm not just leaving you out to, kind of fend for yourselves. So there's both of those. I know here in the office, I kind of had an epiphany with, the CSRs that help take care of my book of business. And I'm sitting here saying, in one area, I'm like, I didn't even know that was part of their bonus structure. I didn't even know that they have goals to reach in order to get, a part of their bonus structure. And here I am not taking any ownership in helping them do that. And that's like, how can I ask someone to do something and I'm not even like actively participating in helping them with that goal? And then, so, changing some things around, understanding what they're, how we need to do things, what a process is, and then to come to find out that she was, one of my CSRs was, was able to obtain that extra bonus because of that work that we did. And it was like, wow, like that was really, when I heard it this morning, I was like, wow, like, okay, something that we worked on came to fruition. And she certainly has more confidence about, the areas that we're working on, but also gets more money. I mean, that's amazing. That's so great. So definitely, goals and accountability to each other, and then, buy-in from our employees, I think is really important. So before we wrap up,
let me talk about that long-term goal
sure.
too, because I mean, short-term goals are critical to get us to where, we ultimately want to be. And so having long-term goals, and I'm not talking about a year, but I'm talking about like a 20-year goal. I mean, things do change. There's no doubt. But, it is important to think about those longer-term goals. So, for example, let's just say that your long-term goal and you're 30 years old, and your long-term goal is to have $1 million liquid, not in just all assets, but just liquid investments, bank accounts. Well, and you're giving yourself 20 years to get there. That's a goal that is great to have. But more importantly, it also, if you look at that 20-year number and say, okay, that's my goal, is to get there. So what does that mean for me today? What decision do I need to make today in order to position me to hit that $1 million of liquid cash assets 20 years from now? So that might mean, I'd like to sit here and binge on Netflix this afternoon. But for me to get to $1 million liquid in 20 years, that means I need to drive my car for 10 years. So that means I need to get up off the couch and I need to go out and wash that car and sweep that car out and keep that car clean. And so that, again, because that's what's going to get me there long term. So, even though it's hard to think 20 years out, it's still important to set those types of goals, even for your business. If you say, in 20 years, I want to have 3 salons or 3 studios, or instead of having 1,200 square feet, I want to be at, 4,000 square feet of business. Those are still goals that you want to set, because they will, if you take them seriously, and it will determine the actions of the day. So short-term goals are critical, but having that long-term, and I think, Jennifer, you said earlier, maybe it's more long-term vision, but having that, was really going to make a difference in your decision-making short-term.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, I want to thank you both again for joining me on this podcast, and I want to thank our listeners for tuning in, and we will see you all next time. We want to thank you for listening today. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a positive review. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Dempsey Weiss & Associates and J.Faith Hair Studio.